Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Woo.
Yeah! Remember, you got to introduce because you're supposed to give me the name.
I know.
We forgot last time. We forgot, so I just want to make sure we do it up top this time.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Bell, and this is my associate, Shardamus Bowell.
Hello,
and we just watched Psych.
Psych!
Season 7, Episode 5, 100 Clues.
Woo!
You're invited, lucky you, to a party, whoop-de-doo. There'll be wine and cocktails too. Who's your host? I wish I knew. You're invited. Don't be a D-bag and be late. You have a +1.
Bella Rosa Mansion. Tonight, 7 p.m., RSVP now. No cameras.
Well, I have wanted to go to the Bella Rosa Mansion since I moved to Santa Barbara. It's a stunning landmark.
I bet they have those things in the bathroom that hose off your bum.
Oh, yeah. Party time, Tom.
Yes.
We're party boys.
Dave and I are doing the chocolate dance.
Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, big thanks to Noah.
Yes.
This is a series brought to you by Noah. If you haven't, you can go back. You can watch the other ones. This is the final one.
This is the finale. Yeah, this is the end of this little Psych miniseries. That threw two people who had never seen the show before into the deep end of Psych.
Yeah, specifically into parodies. We watched Tuesday the 13th.
Yep.
Then we watched Dual Spires. We watched Here's Lassie, and this is the final one, 100 Clues.
Yes.
I noticed that I think there's a lot more parody episodes out there. Just from scanning.
I believe so. I think these are just like four of the four that they wanted us to watch.
Yeah. But yeah, Noah, thank you so much.
Indeed.
It's been fun. Good times with pals.
Yep. Good times.
Etc.
With your pal Shardamus Bowell.
Shardamus Bowell. Yeah. How'd you like that one? Does that one work?
Pretty solid.
All right, because the runner-up was Dusty Nuts, which I also like.
Yeah, Dusty Nuts. Shardamus Bowell, I think, is the clear winner.
Yeah. The secret is to not think about it for very long.
Yeah. I'd be happy to put that on a business card.
Yeah, Shardamus Bowell. Yeah. I think so.
Perfect.
It's right there.
Everyone would come to my detective agency.
Yeah. They okay, so that's my first question actually.
Yeah.
Their logo on their detective agency is the logo of the show.
Yes.
Has it always been like that?
Yes.
Okay. That's all. That was my question, because I was like, are they imitating the logo of their show that they don't realize they're on? No, the logo of the show is the logo.
It's the logo of their agency. Yes.
Yeah. I just never noticed that until this time.
They pointed. I think it's in the first episode, which you didn't watch.
Yeah.
But going into the series, I watched a good chunk of the first season to sort of acclimate myself to the dynamics. And yeah, in the first episode, they kind of make a joke about it where Gus is like, "You are calling the business Psych, like you're telling everyone this is a scam."
Right. It works.
Yeah.
So this is as evidenced a parody of Clue.
Yes, and it has Martin Mull, Leslie Ann Warren, and Christopher Lloyd in it.
It sure does.
Who are all in Clue.
What are your thoughts on Clue?
Clue, the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Clue.
Me too.
It's a great movie.
I guess it is, right?
Yeah.
Because I think there's I noticed, maybe in the people we know, I noticed it's oddly divisive. Or maybe in general, do people consider it a good movie?
That's a tricky question because it was not well received when it came out. It didn't do well and it didn't get good reviews. But it's one of those movies that has become like a cult comedy classic.
And that's what I'm wondering is the why, because it's one of those movies where it's hard for me to separate nostalgia from, because I just it's always been there, you know, being Thanksgiving at my grandma's house, Comedy Central.
Yep.
You're watching Clue, you know.
Clue. Yep.
It's hard to separate that idea because, like you said, it wasn't well received. I can't tell if it's like in the same, like movies like that are also like Earth Girls Are Easy. That's a movie that I also watched as a kid, or Mannequin, and I don't think those are good movies, right?
No. But I think a lot of like comedy nerds and people who are in comedy, I think, tend to like Clue, although that's not always true.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
I haven't watched it recently, but I have watched it as an adult, and it still feels like it holds up.
It does. Yeah, no, Clue is an early example of, like, I don't know. It's just, I think Clue is a really good example of the improv comedy of the time. I don't it holds up. The jokes are still killer. Like it's not just nostalgia that you're remembering that movie fondly. It's very funny with well constructed jokes.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of
it's also
awesome people in it. Yeah,
it's also a very weird movie.
It is very weird. I think that's part of its appeal.
Yeah, and not weird like, you know, Mannequin or Earth Girls Are Easy. Those movies are like on purpose weird and out of control. Clue is just like its existence.
Yeah,
is weird.
It's also structurally weird.
Yeah,
like it's a strange movie from concept all the way through execution. It's like let's make a locked room murder mystery out of a board game, but it's a comedy. It's a farce actually, and so does this episode, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, that's doing a parody of a comedy, or it's a parody of a parody. Is a very difficult line to walk, I would say. Because some of the things they do in this are just jokes from Clue, which we talked about this, is that in the last episode I don't think Psych even considers itself parody, though.
No,
so that's
it's more of an
being
homage.
A little unfair. It's more of homage, yeah.
Yeah. And this is definitely homage. I think this is, next to like Dual Spires, this is my favorite of the ones that we've watched.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think as an episode, I would agree with you. I think as a homage, I would say there's some weird stuff it does that I think they could have done better. But I think this is probably my favorite episode I watched.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yeah.
It's definitely...
Dual Spires is fun, but I think I enjoyed this one.
I think this one works better as a mystery too than some of the ones that we've watched.
Yeah, there's a little more of it.
Mm-hmm.
It felt a little more like
it's less like Sean's deductions. There's still a few that are kind of thrown in when the script needs them, but it starts flagging them early on. So it starts actually giving you pieces of the puzzle early on, which I appreciated because it is. It's a comedy, but it is also a mystery.
So one of the similarities that I didn't get, because I had to read about, because the copy I was watching didn't do this, is I heard there's multiple endings.
There is. This episode, they didn't film it live, but it aired live. So as it was airing, people could do like an American Idol style vote with a hashtag system where they could vote on who they thought the murderer was. And depending on whichever got the most votes, they had a couple of different endings. So there's apparently, like the film Clue, there's apparently 3 different endings to this episode that they filmed.
Right. And like Clue, one of the things I think that's easy to forget about Clue is that because we all grew up watching it on Comedy Central, in theaters it gave a different ending. It didn't give all the endings.
Yes, it gave you one of the 3 endings.
Yeah, and there's even a DVD option where you can shuffle.
Yeah, it'll just give you one of the random ending. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny because it always feels more complete the way I saw it on TV with all the endings.
Well, I think it's interesting because it's making use of, it's something I always really liked about the film Clue, is that it's making use of the game's mechanics, where like the solution is so modular in a game of Clue because you're literally just shuffling a deck of cards and it's whatever the cards say. Right.
It's also, yes, it's doing that. It's also making fun of the genre.
Yeah.
Which is saying, like, yeah, it could really be anybody. They kept, like, I love that they repeat, like, what is it? Communism was just a red herring.
Yeah.
They say, they repeat
was
lines.
Just a red herring.
Yeah, where it's like, it's the realization of like, it's so easy to just like, because when you write a movie and when the movie's shot in a certain way, it's shot in a way, we talk about this all the time with murder mysteries, is that it's not a murder mystery because it's shot in a way to purposefully make it so that it's unsolvable.
Right.
So that it can be anybody.
Right. It's more of a riff on a bad mystery because, the Clue plays with the idea of it puts all the pieces in place so anyone has the motive and the ability, and then it just has like a third act reveal of somebody explaining, haha, I did it, and here's this crucial piece of information that explains why, which was withheld from you until this moment.
Right. And there's stuff of like, while we were all doing this, they were secretly doing that. And if you rewind, you're like, no, I can see them in the shot.
No, they're there.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter because it's like...
It doesn't matter.
And yeah, so I don't know that. Yeah, I like the modular ending. It's a fun idea. It does say a lot about the game Clue. It says a lot about the genre.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And that's
it's
cool
a perfect idea for the film Clue. Yeah,
it really is. That's the thing, is if you're doing a movie version of Clue, you have right away there's a question. Do we make it serious or do we make it funny? There's no other question, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think, do we make it an action movie unless you're terrible.
Unless you're an asshole.
Yeah. And so that realization, they must have realized early on, like, yeah, we're adapting a board game.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck?
So go ahead.
I was just gonna, color-coded characters are already very simplistic, and it's like, it's silly, so let's just make it silly.
Yeah. And I like that this episode of Psych, they did the same thing with airing it live, which is fun. And this is, I mean, Psych is already a silly show, but this episode, I think, might be one of the silliest episodes we saw.
Yeah, well, in part because it's parodying a very silly
movie. Yeah. So there's a lot of the gags in this episode are just pure silliness, which always gets me for whatever reason. Just pure silliness.
Oh, absolutely. I like the toupee arc.
The toupee arc when they're doing the acoustics in the room. And the guy starts singing, and then Sean starts singing with him, and then Gus walks in and starts singing, and then they shoot him, and he keeps singing. It's just his voice gets higher.
Yeah, that was great. It was really good.
Such a good gag.
Here's the biggest question I have about this episode. The thing that made me go, this is weird. And I think there's a few. I've had this in a few of the previous ones too. Is they don't fully commit to the Clue parody, and what I mean by that is the presence of Billy Lips seems so, like, I don't get me wrong, so I like the Billy Lips character.
It's a great character, yeah.
And I looked him up, and he's not in a lot of episodes. He's not like a regular character.
No.
That's what confused me, is because they start with this flashback. The dad flashback is from a metal concert in 2007.
Yeah, it's
and they arrest this rocker named Billy Lips.
Yeah.
And throughout it's almost like this Get Him to the Greek character.
Yes.
Where he's like, he's a real, he's
a real
like
Russell Brand character, yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't fit with Clue.
He does, though.
Well, no, because I know what you're going to say.
Okay.
Which is that, I assume what you're going to say is that the character of Mr. Body
is played by Lee Ving,
who is a punk star.
And he's
very, very different.
And he's the Mr. Body character.
Yeah, but he is the lead singer of Fear.
Yeah.
And so in Clue, Mr. Body is played by Lee Ving, who is a terrible actor. He is the lead singer of a band called Fear, which is a very gritty punk band. They're not British. And that's why I was like, you're so close. Why not just make them an 80s punk band? Why not do...
I don't know.
Like, that's what bothered me, was like, this could have worked, but they didn't do the thing.
I don't know.
That's what made it really weird. It was like, did they not look into it enough? Did they just want to have this character? And that's where it was like, I don't understand, like that felt very weird to me.
Well, it's like you said, it's not a parody; it's an homage. So they're taking taking the elements, and then they have to adjust the elements so that it makes sense within Psych. So they saw, it's 80s goth metal is like adjacent to
right, but that's
dirty
the thing
ass
is
80s
why
punk.
not just do the thing? Because
I don't because they wanted
it wouldn't
this
have changed
character.
the story. Yeah, it wouldn't have changed the story. And that's why it felt really weird to me that it was like, just do the thing. Just do, because as it stands, it took me a while to be like, oh, I guess he's supposed to be Lee Ving, but he's not at all like Lee Ving.
No.
So, like, it would have been fun to do, like, a Danzig type character. Or, well, a Lee Ving type character. Someone who's just like
Danzig
that kind
would
of
have been
funny.
pretty funny, yeah. I mean, there's a version of that. You just do Danzig as Nathan Explosion. Like, there's a version of that character that would have been equally as funny. This is just the character they wanted to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like this, the British rocker, we were oversaturated with. When did this episode come out?
2013?
You know? Yeah, and so that was right around Get Him to the Greek, right?
It was a couple. Get Him to the Greek was 2010.
Okay,
it was a couple years.
It just
after.
felt like low hanging fruit. It's just like again, this person does a good job. By the way, he's doing. Do you know who plays that guy?
Yeah, he's one of the bad guys in Uncharted 2.
Yeah, he's also the photographer in Spider-Man 3.
He sure is.
And he's basically just doing that.
Yeah.
The British photographer.
I mean, he's very funny. He's
very funny.
He's got a really good bit with Martin Mull where he's translating Martin Mull's like drunken slurring.
Right. Martin Mull's killing it, of course. Christopher
They're all
Lloyd's
great.
killing it.
Yeah, Leslie Ann Warren is doing a great.
Yeah, Leslie Ann Warren. Yeah, the stutter. That was another one though that I felt like these were like a little too low hanging fruit. Where it was like you could have thought of.
Yeah, it's not the most. It's not the most. You're right. The idea of giving a character. She's basically Porky Pig. She's stuttering one word and then just switches to a simpler word. But it's Leslie Ann Warren, so she's like selling it really well.
Yeah, no, they're great actors.
Yeah.
Again, the guy doing the British rocker is great. I just thought, oh, British rocker, that's like kind of a used up. Like it just would have been a great opportunity to do a Danzig, because that's like, oh yeah, we haven't really parodied that nearly as much, and that's more fitting to the Lee Ving comparison. So I felt like that was a missed opportunity in an episode where it's still like everybody's doing a great job and it's very funny.
I think it might have also related to the story they wanted to tell, because having the story about him be this so the premise of the episode is this rocker Lips is the lead singer of this band that Sean and Gus are huge fans of, but this autobiography comes out where some details about this groupie that died, Melody Lane, he's supposed to be Penny Lane from Almost Famous, right? Was suffocated by somebody, and he initially had gotten cleared of it, but then his autobiography came out that had some details that didn't add up, so he ends up going to prison. So after he gets out, he invites Sean and Gus and a couple of people to his mansion for this celebration of like, he's like, I'm born again. Prison was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then people start getting murdered. And it turns out that like, it's like his manager, the guy that wrote the autobiography, this groupie who has a child who may or may not be the child of one of the members of the band. So they're all people that he would possibly have a reason to kill because they all testified at his trial. But it turns out the murderer is the butler because the butler did it, right. And it's Garrett Morris who's killing it. The gag about his name is so dumb, but it made me laugh every time because it's like
Clisby or
Clisby.
Yeah.
It's like this impossible name.
No, there's some great. Again, like you said, it's a very silly episode.
Yeah.
And I would say the silliness. It works.
Yeah, it really worked because Clue is a silly movie, so it's the right template for just pure silliness.
I mean, finish describing. I guess I'll like.
That's pretty much the plot.
Yeah.
Like and then a similar thing to the movie Clue happens where like people don't really keep dying because nobody really gets murdered in this episode except for the initial murder.
Right, which I liked that idea that like basically he just passes out because he's so drunk.
Right, Martin Mull is
and like
so
they just
funny
assume he's dead because he's so drunk that it's like he's dead. That's a great bit, and that is a great bit with the idea of rockers.
Yeah.
I think what's weird to me is that we have these two main characters that are very over the top.
Yes.
In a good way. And it's weird that they didn't just do kind of what they do in the Twin Peaks episode, where they get an invitation and then they go and everybody's very serious and it's very Clue-like. You know what I mean? Where it's like we go in and it's these two comedic characters mixing it up with this like scary, serious murder mystery. And it's weird that that wasn't the instinct they went with. And they do all this like rocker jokes on the side that don't really relate to Clue. Like they relate, yes, in the fact that one of the characters was played by a rock star. Rock star is being generous when talking about Lee Ving.
Yeah, that's right. That was the point that I was getting. It's just that the idea that the Lips would be this world touring musician who had a biographer and this grizzled manager and a bunch of groupies and a scandal over some woman's death that he got away with at first and then went to prison for.
Right.
It's just more believable when it's like an arena rock British metal guy and not like a grimy ass punk dude from the band Fear.
But I would say it's the weirdest aspect because when you think murder mystery and Clue, you think stuffy old people. You think Clue, where it's like the proper butler, like even Lee Ving in Clue is like he's more like a gangster, which is funny because Lee Ving just can't act. But it's still like he's wearing a suit. Everything's very proper. But nobody's
behaving. Everybody's behaving like a larger than life character in Clue.
It's just weird because when you think of the movie Clue, you don't think British rock. You don't. That's not a thing.
I also don't think like stuffy and serious. Like Clue is not a serious movie. It doesn't take place in the real world.
But it's a parody of that world of stuffy where they're, it's high society people getting together for a proper dinner, a dinner party.
Yeah,
it's a dinner party, and so it's weird that they chose this. It's like a real like weird wrench in the whole episode. That again, everybody's doing a good job. They're funny. But that's what kind of made me feel like this isn't like it begins at backstage at a rock concert.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a weird place to start for a Clue parody. And it's a weird element to have throughout because it throws it off. It throws off the tone that you would want for a Clue parody, I think, because it's just not a character or an element that's in Clue. So it's kind of like we took this one idea and another and we smash them together. And this is what I was saying, where it's like I like the episode. It's my favorite of the episodes I watched as a parody. That I found that very distracting.
It still has to exist as an episode of Psych.
Yeah,
so
but then looking up,
you have like two masters to pay there.
Right, but I had assumed like this was a regular character because it was like, why else would it be in this? And no, he was like written for the episode.
Yeah,
and so that's where I'm like, that's weird to me. Like, make it like a rich guy. Make it like. The start, the premise of Clue. I don't know. It's still a fun episode. It's just such a weird choice to make.
Yeah, I don't know.
When you're parodying Clue. Because it was like, it really does feel like it's two different ideas for two different episodes.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
It's just a very, I don't know, it's a strange thing. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do they, I think I read this somewhere, do they incorporate pineapples and everything? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's at least one pineapple in every episode.
Got it. The pineapple doorbell, I liked not knowing that because, I don't know, there was something delightful about it.
It's just very silly. I like the gag with the what they call them, the pastel licorice. It's like Mike and Ike's, or the Good and Plenty's, I think.
Yeah.
It's Good and Plenty. So there's this crystal dish of Good and Plenty's, and like Sean and Gus just start cramming them into their pockets. And then it becomes like a point of contention later on when they're being interrogated. They start arguing over like, well, when I came back, you were gone. It's like, aha, you thought I was gone, but I doubled back to grab more of the pastel licorice. And then you were gone. It's like, aha, but I doubled back to grab even more of the pastel licorice. And then Gus is like, but you're lying because I ate them all. And so like one or two scenes later, it's a scene in that front room with the same crystal candy dish. And they don't really call attention to it, but you can see that the dish is empty.
Oh,
it's a stupid joke, but I really laughed at that.
I like that they started implicating each other, turning on each other. One of the things I liked that the invitation alone made them decide that they're going to see boobs.
Because they get a singing telegram, which of course is a reference to Clue.
She's the first Clue reference.
She's even dressed the same way. But yeah, it's just this very out of the blue. It's the singing telegram. It's this very mysterious calligraphy invitation. So yeah, they just immediately assume it's going to be an Eyes Wide Shut party.
Yeah. I liked that.
Yeah.
That they were like just banking on it.
The guy from Tears for Fears shows up.
Is that who that person is?
Yeah, he gets shot.
They talk about him, Kurt Smith.
Yeah,
I enjoyed whoever that was getting shot.
He's from Tears for Fears, and Sean keeps saying, "the tragic death of Kurt Smith," and everybody has to keep saying, "He's not dead."
Right, until he gets mauled by a panther.
He gets mauled by a panther.
Yeah, that's very like David Zucker, where it's like, yeah, let's have one character that's just very unfortunate and extra points if there's someone famous.
Right. It's a running gag in the series where Sean's a big Tears for Fears fan.
Ah, okay.
So it's just, and that bit they do where he's like, yeah, I'm producing his album. It's called Kurt Smith Duets with Kurt Smith. And he starts singing one of his, like, well, take your, it's not that bad of a gunshot wound. Just sing us one of your duets to take your mind off it. So he starts to sing. He's like, okay, here's my part. And then I come in and do this. And he starts to sing the second part. And Sean starts to sing with him. And he's like, shh, is your name Kurt Smith?
So he really named a band Tears for Fears?
Sure.
All right. I mean, there are worse band names, but look, I'm no judgment. Like it's I'm sure it's a fine band. It's just Tears for Fears.
Yeah, it's a very successful band. I don't know why you're giving them notes on the name.
Yeah. Look, there are very successful bands and bands I like with very dumb names.
Yeah. We were just talking about the leader of a band called Fear.
Yeah.
Which is just like 2 words less than Tears for Fears.
Yeah. I guess we can talk about the Clue references, right?
I mean, there's a bunch. The opening titles do the same thing with the cards.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the singing telegram. Obviously, the 3 actors: Leslie Ann Warren played Miss Scarlet, Christopher Lloyd played Professor Plum, Martin Mull played Colonel Mustard. Sean recreates the sequence where Tim Curry, as the butler, is running throughout the house to give us a synopsis of how all the murders took place, and he does the 2 + 1 + 2 + 1 + 1 gag about how many bullets are left in the gun. Shoot, there's a lot. I mean, we already talked about the lead singer of a band being the one of the characters. There's a lot.
Yeah, it's raining.
It's raining. Yeah, it's at the.
That's important.
It's a similar looking house. I don't know if they use the same exterior, but yeah, I don't know. There's
frozen body.
Yeah, that's right. The frozen body in the fridge. That's right.
Wildcat instead of dog. Is the chandelier a reference?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I hadn't seen it in a while.
It's at the very end. It's in one of the endings. Tim Curry is like, yeah, there's no more bullets in the gun, and he just casually shoots it, and there was one more bullet, and it knocks the chandelier down.
Yeah, it's direct references, and then it almost feels like stuff like Secret Rooms and stuff are like, yeah that's a Clue reference, but that's just a reference to the genre.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go home and make love to our wives. I did that. The freeze frame. I wish I could see the other ending. I'm sure it's on the YouTubes. Do you know?
I don't know. I assume probably Lips is the killer in one of them. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen them. I know they're on the DVD apparently.
I'm going to see if I can find what it is. There's the Butler did it ending. The biographer did it.
Oh, Christopher Lloyd. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. Huh. All right. Both endings they both end the same, but yeah. Like
Leslie Ann Warren does a bit about flames rising in her bosom. That's like Madeline Kahn's riff on flames on the side of my face.
Right.
I think Christopher Lloyd's character's name is Kahn, like Martin Kahn.
Right. He says, "Great Scott."
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading some of the trivia. Is that I think this is where I get thrown off. Is that I'm seeing also that they have a lot of references to This Is Spinal Tap and also Murder by Death. So I think it's like this weird mush where like, yes, Clue is clearly the biggest reference, but it's not the only thing they're setting out to reference, I guess.
Yeah. And that seems pretty, I think we've talked about that in the previous episodes. That's kind of Psych in general, is a lot of pop culture references.
I do think they cooled it on it this time. And that's I think why I liked this one better, is the characters, the comedy came from them being clowns as opposed to just constant string of references.
Yeah.
It felt like there were more jokes in that regard. Like the toupee idea is
it's great.
He sees a toupee in a painting and he explains the fear of toupees.
Yeah. It's like my grandpa, and then he would beat him for being afraid of toupees. It was a vicious cycle.
Yeah, exactly. And then they do this great thing where there's like a secret chocolate room, and he finds a secret room, goes through it, realizes it's a secret toupee room, and then sees Gus just like a puddle.
Yeah.
Like
on the floor.
Losing his fucking mind.
The fact that they want to find the secret chocolate room so badly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's great. It's silly.
Works.
Yeah, and it's behind a mousse because it's chocolate mousse.
Yeah. I like the reference to late night games of Clock Me Noggin.
So that's a white person's game.
Yeah,
or like when Garrett Morris admits that he did it, and then Lips is like, "Oh, it can't have been you who killed her. Then I'm gonna have to find a new black friend."
Yeah,
and then he looks over at Gus. He's like, "Oh, hello. Who are you?"
The noise Gus makes there is great.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, there's some fun parts in this.
It's a funny episode. I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, and I think what it came down to, I'm glad I kind of found it, which was that it does feel like the humor is just a little more like
it's more focused in this one for sure.
More focused, definitely.
The references are more focused toward a specific thing that they're going for. It's less of just mile a minute pop culture references, and I think that probably has to do with one being this is like kind of late in the series. I think this is the second to last season, and also like this is 2013. Comedy was kind of moving on from that too in general.
Yeah, it does still feel all of these episodes have some sort of they're not entirely focused, I don't think. And like, for example, having the Spinal Tap rock star in this, like there's this weird feeling of like, and it's always throughout where, and I do think this is kind of comedy at the time too, like Family Guy, where it's like, although Family Guy did, like, for example, Family Guy does a murder mystery episode where they keep the tone, but it's Family Guy, so not really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it still feels like they wanted to do a lot of different references, and the references don't quite mesh. And I find that weird. I have I don't have many more thoughts about the episode itself. I can see what you're saying about the idea of having this cartoon character British rock star is an odd fit for Clue, because there wasn't that character in Clue. Yeah.
But he's not out of sync with Psych. So
sure.
it's I think it's just this weird consequence of a show like Psych, which is a very broad comedy. That is also doing an homage to something specific, like a specific comedy. So it's doing Clue stuff, but it's also doing Psych stuff, and that can create sort of a conflict in ideas, and we've talked about that a lot in the previous 3 episodes.
Yeah.
It's more muted here, I think. Like the British rocker is a little out. He still works, like he fits into this premise, but it's weird if you're thinking about it in terms of an homage to Clue, because there isn't a British rocker in Clue. But I think he makes sense here. But he
makes sense again in the story.
Yeah.
It's weird as a Clue homage.
Yeah, it's weird as a Clue homage, for sure.
Yeah. And that's partially what we're judging these on. And I don't know if that was ever fair of us.
I don't know.
And this is where I guess I want to get into like wrapping up just the miniseries.
No, that's true. Yeah, this is the last episode.
Yeah, our general impressions of the show, because I think we've been judging it based off how well do they do the parodies. And I don't know if that's necessarily fair, but it also is clearly what they're inviting by doing this. Like the last one we did, the Shining one, they're trying, it was like weird that they didn't, they keep like almost doing it.
There were a lot of missed opportunities in the Shining one. That was an odd one. Yeah.
Yeah, and like this felt like one where it was like you did it mostly. Where you go back to the Friday the 13th one where they're just straight up doing it, you know.
I think those first two were the most effective in terms of homage.
Yeah,
the Tuesday the 13th and the Dual Spires, I think, is my favorite in terms of the homage because I like the idea of just transplanting Sean and Gus into the Twin Peaks universe.
Yes. And there was just so much. It was very dense.
It was very, very
with
dense.
References.
Yeah, that's a I really like that episode. And I really like this one too.
Yeah. But I do think like it's weird it never escalated, I guess, is that when you're doing where you're like, we're a show that does homage episodes, it feels like, and maybe this is a budget reason, you know, they never like, or maybe it's just the episodes we've watched, they never went over the top. There was never a moment that made me go, oh shit. Like Christopher Lloyd being in this was great, and the other Clue cast, but like had Tim Curry shown up, that would have been like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Where it's like they never did anything that really made me go, holy shit, I can't believe they managed to do that.
Well, Tim Curry was in an earlier episode of Psych. I think at this point in 2013, he was too ill to
he's
act.
having health problems.
Yeah. But he
did manage to be in the Rocky Horror Picture Show remake, right?
Maybe?
I think I let me look that up. I'm pretty sure he's the old man, the narrator.
Oh, well, yeah,
which is such a fitting idea.
Yeah, yeah. But I they did get Tim Curry earlier in the series, just not for the Clue episode.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What did he get to do?
I'm not sure. I read that Tim Curry was in season 2.
Okay. Someone correct me if I'm the criminologist and expert. Okay, I don't think that's the actual I don't think that's the
narrator.
The main narrator, but he's in it. The point is he's in it, which yeah, I can see like if you're Tim Curry and they're like we're remaking Rocky Horror, he's like, yeah, of course, you know, I'll do whatever I can to be in that. I never saw that though.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Clue would have been it's probably like this was, let's see, the Rocky Horror one was 2016. So I think it's also a matter of like, yeah, he's having health issues and probably money.
Yeah.
And it's Tim Curry. I don't know. But yeah, I guess that going back to all of these, there was never, I like the fucking the Twin Peaks parody. There's an obvious person that's missing from that too. And so it's stuff like that where it's like, I wish you could have really fucking brought it home. Yeah. You know, I wish Kyle MacLachlan would show up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and again, you can't really criticize them for that because they only have the resources that they have.
Yeah. And what they were able to do, especially with that Twin Peaks episode, is wow.
And they have so many other people from Twin Peaks in that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Any final thoughts about this show?
Yeah, I wish. I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say. That I agree that having us judge it on it being a how it is a successful parody of these things is a little unfair to the show for sure. And what I've watched of it apart from these episodes, I've enjoyed. And I enjoyed most of these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like silliness for the sake of silliness, as I said at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Sean and Gus are extremely silly characters. So I don't know. I get why this show has the fans that it does. I get that the people responsible for the show, like James Renee Rodriguez and Dule Hill, and all the writers and directors and stuff, have a real. They obviously really love this show, but they also have just a big appreciation for comedy in general.
Right.
And I think that. I don't know. I think it's one of the more pleasant. It's I don't know. It's light. It's pleasant. I don't know. I understand why this show has the fandom that it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a show where it's like it didn't do anything to hurt me. It didn't offend me. It didn't do anything where it's like liking the show is a bad thing. I don't know whether this is because of the episode. And by the way, we weren't told to judge it as a like our criteria of judging it based on how well of a parody or a homage it is. We weren't told to do that. We just sort of naturally are doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think part of that is what the show invites. But it is true that it's probably not fair. It's but yeah, the show is not hurting anybody. For sure. I don't know whether it's because of the episodes I watched, but I never felt like I understood the main point of the show. And what I mean is that his investigation, his psych business, I never felt like that was front and center. Like even in this episode, they every now and then they do in the episodes where he sees a clue, right? And this one he sees like a boa, like a petal or a feather. And it happens just once. And there's never this aha Sherlock moment where he puts it all together. It's never really that, like, it never seems to happen in any of these, really.
Mm.
And they're always kind of subverting that.
Yeah, these are all breaking format, too.
Exactly. And he's never really pretending to be psychic. I never saw too much. Like, I thought there was a lot more in the show. And again, maybe there is.
There is. These are
where he's spending a lot of time pretending to be psychic, and someone is like, "Oh, you're a scam artist," and there's like conflicts there, and I just never saw that aspect of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So from these episodes, I really never felt like I got a good idea of
no, you wouldn't,
what the core of the show is.
Yeah.
As for the comedy, it never really got me. There was never an episode that, from beginning to end, there was probably a handful of jokes that made me chuckle. It just never did it for me. And
yeah.
So, and again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's like saying that isn't a judgment on it. It's more like I never felt like I should be judging the show, period. Because it just clearly wasn't a show that worked for me. And the fact that it works for other people, a lot of people I know, people who are into comedy who have good taste, means that it's like, yeah, no, I'm just not grooving with the show.
Sure.
It's just not, it's as simple as that. That's why it's like talking about the show has always been hard for me, because it's like, I simply don't find it that funny, and there's nothing wrong with it. And so like, it's hard to figure out what to talk about when you're in that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Like, I don't really want to come down hard on it for that reason.
No, that's understandable.
Yeah.
So it's safe to say you are not going to watch Psych after this.
Maybe someday I'll watch an episode that isn't a parody episode,
Mm-hmm.
but like nothing from what I've watched in these 4 episodes have made me want to watch more Psych. Like nothing if this isn't the point of the podcast, but as a, like, here's some samples of Psych, do you want to watch it? My answer would be no. I'm not. It's not doing it for me. It's just not doing it.
That's fair.
Yeah. But it's charismatic.
Yes.
But we all kind of know where I'm, like, we all kind of know what I'm talking about, which is that, like, if a show that's pure, like, we're mostly going to be doing comedy and not much story.
Mm-hmm.
If the comedy doesn't work, then it's like, well,
yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not working. I don't. There's not enough story for me to care.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will probably continue. As I said, I watched a good chunk of the first season before we started making the show, just so I kind of had a context for the premise.
Sure.
Which you did not have going.
No,
in.
and that I purposely didn't because you said you did, and I was like, well, you know. Where I'm the control group.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I will probably continue watching it.
Good.
I like these two goofballs.
Yeah. Like I said, most people I know really like this show.
And there's movies too. There's movies on Peacock.
My God.
There's 2 Psych movies, and there's a third one coming.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, this isn't about Psych. Whenever they're like, we're making a movie version of this show, when they did it with Deadwood, it was like, this is like 2 episodes.
Yeah, it's like a special. It's like a special.
Yeah,
just to do story maintenance or just check in on these characters or whatever. Yeah.
It's just always funny to me because they're like, we're doing movies, and it's like, that just means you can't afford to do a whole season.
That's correct.
Yeah, and that's a shame.
Well, I mean, something's better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
Again, so was the Deadwood. It was like, I'm glad this is here.
We got this. Yeah.
It's not a hit against the actual content. It's just like, oh, that's a shame. Like, didn't South Park just get approved for like 10 movies?
Something like 11 or 12. I don't think it's specifically South Park movies. It's just movies that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are going to make for HBO Max, in addition to like 5 more seasons of South Park.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense, because I was like, why not just like tack on another season? But if they're not exclusive South Park movies.
No, they're not specific.
Okay.
I think Matt Stone rattled off a few ideas that they already had. Like, I know they'd been trying to make a kaiju movie forever, with the idea sort of being like Team America, where it's you can see the zippers on the suits and shit like that.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, so I think that wraps up our Psych podcast.
We did it.
Our Psych miniseries. You got one bona fide Psych fan out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, that's better than nothing.
Yeah, these goofy fuckers. I will continue to watch their adventures.
Yeah. Big thanks to Noah for making this happen.
You,
I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope people in general enjoyed this. But mostly Noah.
Yeah, I care less about the rest of you.
Yeah, I mean, you're all cool.
You're all great, but like,
yeah, I don't dislike you guys.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah. I don't know. It's fucking, be good. Oh, I should tell people about our Patreon,
you probably should do that, yeah.
Listen,
you can tell them to be good, but I wish you would tell them about the Patreon.
Listen, this was all done through our Patreon, and if you're interested, you can go to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. For $5 a month, you get exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. Also, Star Trek The Next Futurama. Also, we watch movies every Friday night with our patrons.
Good God.
That's another tier. There's all sorts of tiers.
So many options.
You can check them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's honestly, it's the coolest thing on the internet. And you should check it out.
Yes.
Every other thing on the internet is just like, wow, they're all looking at us like we need to get over there and get some of what they got going on, because that's just the best.
Yeah.
That's just the best thing on the internet. I think we can all agree. We also have a store. If you head over to gamefullyunemployed.com, you will find the complicated link to our Teespring website, which is where our store is now. You can get t-shirts, masks, mugs, posters, all kinds of things. We got fun designs. If you're a fan of our shows, like Mulder and Batman, we got wacky ass Mulder shirts and Batman shirts.
Do.
Check that shit out. Yeah, and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this. It helps.
It does help. At least it helps us. We get to read them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know.
No, yeah, no. Dave calls me late at night, and we just read reviews
we read
to
them
each
together.
other. Yeah, we just read them together.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really fucking weird, but we do it for you.
We put on the Yule log thing, the Yule log where it's just like 13 hours of a log on a fire. We just put that on, and we read each other's reviews. Yeah.
We sync our logs.
Yeah, with the spitting and crackling of the fire has to be in sync.
Exactly. It takes a while.
All right.
But all right, fine.
That's the end of the Psych podcast.